Be ready for some math fun with Help Your Math's cartoon animation.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
A couple wants to have 2 children, one at a time. How many different combinations of children can they have?
Let me think. If a couple has 2 children, the possible outcomes for their genders would be an older sister and a younger sister, an older brother and a younger brother, an older sister and a younger brother, or an older brother and a younger sister. It appears as if there's a total of 4 outcomes.
Hello and welcome to helpyourmath.com. In this video, we're going to talk about counting methods, counting by systematic listing for 1-part and 2-part tasks. So first, let's just talk about counting. Counting refers to finding the number of objects of some certain type that exist. So it can be very simple from, how many people are sitting in the room that you're in, to more complex, like how many ways can you get 2 of a kind and 3 of a kind in a 5-card hand of poker. There's different types of counting things. So there's one called a 1-part task. The results for simple 1-part tasks can easily be listed. So a 1-part task is just one thing that you're doing. So maybe it's listing the results of tossing a fair coin. There's only 2 possibilities. It's either going to land on heads or tails. Usually when we're listing things, we do like to use abbreviations. So we might list the possible outcomes as H or T, where it's very obvious what H is representing, what T is representing. For this, we wouldn't want to use like X and Y, because what is X referring to? Is that heads or is that tails? So since we don't know, we're just going to keep it simple. If you can, use the first letters. If you can't, if it's like heads and tails, you can't use H to represent both, so you'd have to do something else, and you'd have to define why you're choosing to do what you do. Another example of a 1-part task would be rolling a fair die. And keep in mind that die is singular of dice. And the possibilities if you roll a single fair die would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. These things that I'm putting in the braces, that's called the sample space. And that's another element of counting theory that we'll talk about. Maybe not in this video, but we will talk about it. So the sample space just lists all the possible outcomes. It's a list of the possible outcomes. List of possible outcomes. Oh, there it is. Listing of possible outcomes is called the sample space. So rolling a die provides 6 possible outcomes. Flipping a coin provides 2 possible outcomes. For 1-part tasks, let's consider a team that has 5 members: Alex, Bev, Cora, Dave, and Eli. If we're going to list the sample space, so we put the sample space in braces. And again, we can abbreviate here because all of the people conveniently have different first letters to their names. So we have A, B, C, D, and E. That would be the sample space of the members of this team. If we wanted to choose a team captain, let's say we put all the names in a hat, how many different ways could a team captain be selected? Don't overthink this. This is just one team captain. There's 5 to choose from, so there are 5 ways that a team captain could be selected. There are 5 ways, and those 5 ways are the sample space. It could be Alex, it could be Bev, it could be Cora, it could be Dave, or it could be Eli. So there'd be 5 possible ways. Going a little bit trickier, we're going to talk about 2-part tasks, right? 1-part tasks, that was it. Done. We're all experts at 1-part tasks, probably. 2-part tasks are a little more involved. This means we have 2 actions to determine the possible outcome. So this would be flipping a coin and rolling a die. There's various ways that we could represent all of these, because we could just list out the possible outcomes. That's fine. And with flipping a coin and rolling a die, we're probably going to be okay with it. But we do want to make sure that we're keeping our information organized, because if things do get more complicated, we want to have some way to ensure we don't repeat any possible outcomes or we don't forget any possible outcomes. So one way we might organize the information for 2-part tasks is called a product table. A product table is formed by the rows representing the possible outcomes from one task and the columns representing the possible outcomes from the other task. Okay, so for the product table, we're going to label the rows, in this case, rolling a 6-sided die, the possible outcomes, we're going to put in this header column. So we're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then for the columns, we have flipping a fair coin. So we're going to label that header row heads or tails. Then what we do is we're going to fill in all of these gray spaces with the mixing and matching of the possible outcomes from each event. So we see here it's filled in real nice, and then what we would do is we would take the row and we would say 1, take the column H. This one would be 1 tail. Then we would keep going down, 2 heads, 2 tails. And there it is filled in real nice and neat so that I don't have to keep writing these. And this would be our product table. So this is the complete product table. Now the question is, how many possible outcomes are there? These are the possible outcomes. So if we wanted to list the sample space or the possible outcomes, those are the things that we would list, and there will be 12 of them. Outcomes, there are 12, right? So we have 1 heads, 1 tails, 2 heads, 2 tails, 3 heads, 3 tails, 4 heads, 4 tails, 5 heads, 5 tails, and lastly 6 heads and 6 tails, and we'll close out our sample space. So this would be using a product table to display all of the possible outcomes for 2-part tasks. Thank you for stopping by.